The Carolina Panthers open up their season on Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars. As I'm sure you already know, every time that has happened, the Panthers have started off 1-0 and gone on to the Super Bowl later on that season. What do they need to do on Sunday to continue that trend? I'll tell you right here on Locked On Panthers.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and yes, that is right, Friday, our first football Friday of the season. Your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for watching the show right here on YouTube and listening wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Be sure to follow me, Julian Council, over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Julian Council, because after the game, what I need you to do is either at me or DM me over on Twitter at Julian Council, or hit me up on Blue Sky at Julian Council and give me your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions every single Wednesday throughout the entirety of the regular season. And yes, if they go to the playoffs as well, I'll be answering your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions. So hit me up over on Twitter or Blue Sky at Julian Council following the game on Sunday to get those questions into me then. Just want to give y'all a quick heads up as we have our first football Friday of the season as the Panthers head down to Jacksonville on Saturday. They travel there. Then on Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern time, toe meets leather. They start off the 2025 campaign against the same team. They start off the campaign back in 2015 and 2003 on the way to fighting for the Lombardi Trophy later on that season. But I want to let you know, on Fridays this year, expect the show to come out around 3-4 o'clock on Friday afternoon. So on your commute back from work, it will be out there. It will not be there in the morning. Why is that? I'm going to be at the Panthers facility on Fridays to check out one look at practice, and then also the injury report and game designations come out on Friday afternoon. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to record something on Thursday and to be speculating, is this guy going to play or not going to play? And certainly there will be times where that happens even on a Friday show, but I want to know what the game designation is. Are they out? Are they doubtful? What the situation is. So just be prepared moving forward throughout the regular season here on Fridays. The show will not come out until about 3-4 o'clock on Friday afternoon. Will be there for you by the time you get home from work or on your way back home from work. But on Fridays, as we have done the last couple of years, we'll continue to do it on this year's show. We're going to do Keys to Victory every single Friday, letting you know the 3 things Carolina needs to do in order to win the game against their upcoming opponent that Sunday. Starting off with key number 1 for this Sunday: stop the run. This has been a massive issue for the Carolina Panthers going back to the 2019 season. And you can look back also on what changed between 2018 to 2019. Oh, they went to a 3-4 scheme. And we know that the owner, David Tepper, comes over from Pittsburgh when he took over the team, and there was a conversation that he had with Ron Rivera about running a 3-4 and Ron being the play caller. And ever since then, the Panthers have struggled to stop the run. Is it the scheme? I don't know. Because looking back at last year, Dave Canales was constantly asked about a Gerald Rivera scheme and constantly said he loves the scheme. So it's not the scheme, it's the players. Well, that can't be an excuse this year because Derek Brown, he's back fully healthy entering into the season. A'Shawn Robinson is also back, and they spent a boatload of money on the first day of the legal negotiating period, bringing Bobby Brown III from L.A. and Turk Wharton from Kansas City to fix the problem. And the problem is that for 6 straight games, to end off the 2024 season, they allowed 200-plus rushing yards on the ground. That is hellacious and so below the standard of what Carolina Panthers have been defensively throughout the entirety of this organization's existence. Last year, 3,000-plus yards allowed, being dead last in DVOA against the run, dead last in EPA against the run, dead last just total against the run. That cannot happen this season if the Panthers are going to take a step forward to where you all would like to see them go. And of course, the organization wants to see them go this fall. So it begins on Sunday against, quite frankly, what was not a really good rushing attack last year in Jacksonville. They were 16th in EPA per rush a season ago. You look at success rate. Tank Bigsby was at 49.4. Trevor Etienne was at 45.3. Jacksonville, as a team, finished with the 48.8 rushing success rate. By comparison, Chuba Hubbard last season in Carolina had a 54.8 rushing success rate, and the Panthers, as a team, had a 51.7 success rate. So Carolina had a much better rushing attack a year ago, and a rushing attack that you probably want to see more of than Jacksonville boasted last season. And Jacksonville brings back Tank Bigsby and brings back Travis Etienne. So this is a situation with Carolina having Derek Brown back in the middle of that defense healthy, having Ashawn Robinson, Bobby Brown III, and Turk Wharton to rotate around him, that there really is no excuse with that unit to not stop the run. And not to mention that J.C. Horn is a willing tackler and has been good run stopper. Mike Jackson as well. Trevon Merrick, who has been mentioned this week as a hammer, a Tasmanian devil. That's what Dave Canales and Ejiro Vera described him as this past week. He's going to be able to help out when it comes to run defense. The linebackers must be better. The injuries to Shaq Thompson, to even Trevin Wallace late in the season, to Claude Sherlis, and to Josie Jewell really had that unit not playing up to the standard that has been set here over the last 3 decades of Panthers football. This year, it's Christian Roseboom, it's Trevin Wallace. Those guys have to be better and cannot have any sort of injury. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for Carolina to plug those holes that are opened up by the opposing team's offensive line when the front four don't get the job done or the front three don't get the job done. And the edge rushers like Patrick Jones II, you're here to set the edge. Nick Scorton also, that's a role he can play. DJ Johnson, those guys have to help out. A collective unit here in Carolina has to be so much better against the run, and you're going up against a team that was not great doing it last year. It starts on Sunday, cannot have a 7th straight game of 200-plus rushing yards allowed. That is inexcusable. That is unacceptable. That is every single adjective you can describe about not wanting to see that happen yet again. Number 2, take the pressure off the passing game. The Panthers wide receiver room was all the talk of the offseason, of training camp, and the preseason, the talk of, are they going to keep 7 guys? And the thought was those 7 would include Adam Thielen. They would also include Hunter Renfrow and Jalen Coker and Xavier Legette, Tedero McMillan, David Moore, Jimmy Horn Jr. is like, okay, going to have a really deep, talented little room there, a little bit of experience, a little bit of youth and all of that. But right now, you look at it, Adam Thielen plays for the Minnesota Vikings. He's back home. He's playing on Monday night. He's not playing on Sunday in Jacksonville. And Jalen Coker has a quad strain, and he is on IR, going to miss at least the first 4 weeks, possibly 6 weeks of the season. And you look at it now, it's the rookie, Tedero McMillan, making his NFL debut. It's Xavier Legette back for a second season. And then Hunter Renfrow, who admitted to us earlier this week that Dave Canales told him he didn't think he was physically there yet, that he wanted to see him on the practice squad and then potentially work his way to the active roster, which means I had the right read on that whole situation. I talked to you all about this last week. What had changed? When Thielen got traded, what had really changed from that point in time? They had made it very clear that they did not see Hunter Renfrow as a guy that they valued over Bryson Tremaine, that they valued over Jimmy Horn Jr., that they valued over David Moore. So I don't know what had changed to where he'd be back on the roster. And then even later on that day, we saw that they got Dale Von Campbell from South Carolina, but he was off the waiver wire, and he's coming in to be a gunner and to be that 7th guy. It took Jalen Coker going down for Hunter Renfrow to sign back to Carolina onto the active roster and also get a little bit of financial security and some, really a commitment from the team this season. So that's still a guy that just over a week ago, the head coach did not see as someone being ready to help them right away, who's now going to be called upon to help them right away, which means that Carolina needs a lead on the rushing game. I talked about this earlier when looking at Chuba Hubbard, 54.8 rushing success rate a year ago. That was 5th among running backs with at least 200-plus carries a season ago. Rico Dowdle, he was right behind it at 53.6. That was 6th among running backs with 200-plus carries. Those 2 guys are the only tandem entering into the league of running backs that had 1,000 yards rushing individually a year ago. They're now here in Carolina behind an offensive line that returns every single player from a year ago. Now, there was one injury concern that we'll talk about here momentarily, but this is a point in time where I feel like you got to be stubborn running the ball, that you have to take pressure off of that passing game, not necessarily off your quarterback, but off of the pass game in general, because Hunter didn't really get a ton of time with Bryce in the preseason. Yes, there was one-on-ones and there was 7v7, 11v11, not nearly as much time that he spent with a guy like Jalen Coker or with Xavier Legette, Adam Thielen, and Tedero McMillan. Hunter did not have as many reps with Bryce as those guys did. And again, he was not even on the roster a week ago. So he's now back here in his first real game action ever with Bryce Young. Same thing with Taylor McMillan. Plenty of time in the offseason, but aside from those 4 drives in the preseason, no real game action. Xavier, plenty of time last year, of course, but this is a team that can run the ball. And the one thing that they at least did good or did well offensively a year ago was running the football. They were 9th in EPA per rush attempt. So would like to see them try to take the pressure off of the passing game by running the ball on Sunday. And then number 3, protect Bryce Young. And this could be a key every single week. Ickey Ekwonu, going to talk about it a little bit more in detail here momentarily, is doubtful on Sunday, which means he's not going to play. Had the appendectomy not Sunday, but the Sunday prior to that. Has not even been 2 full weeks since then. I don't know necessarily what the hang-up is. Just physically, they don't feel like he's ready. I was out there today on Friday. He was going through individual drills. We were not allowed to see any of the team period, so I don't know what they saw that they didn't really need, that they were hoping not to see, or all of that. So he's not looking like he's going to play. Like, doubtful means he's not going to play. So that means either Brady Christensen or Yash Schneider are going to step into there. And just the reality is, at pretty much across all levels of football, you don't really have that much quality at backup tackle. And I do think Carolina has 2 options that can be solved for them on Sunday. But you got to be able to protect Bryce and not let that be a weak spot. And you look at Jacksonville, much like being able to stop the run, they were pretty bad getting after the passer last year. Had 34 sacks. That was only 2 more than Carolina. Had a 16.9 pressure rate, which was 30th. The Panthers were at 16.2. So this was not a good pass rushing team. Even looking further, PFF, they were 25th in their pass rush statistic. They were 32nd in ESPN's pass rush win rate. This is not a team that scares anybody coming from last year when it comes getting after the passer. Now, Josh Hines-Allen is well compensated, a talented player, but from last season, he had 8 sacks. The year prior had 17 and a half. And if you look, aside from the 17 and a half season back in 2023 and his rookie year when he had 10 and a half sacks, his totals are 2.5, 7.5, 7, and 8. So 2 really good seasons. One of them certainly an anomaly, the 17 and a half. Another one, 10 and a half, a high mark from all the middle kind of stuff of 8 sacks, 7 sacks, 7.5. Like, that's more of what he's been in the NFL. So that's not a guy you can allow to just go absolutely insane on you on Sunday because your starting left tackle may be down. Find a way to help out with tight end, with a running back, do whatever you got to do. But if you protect Bryce, that also takes pressure off the pass game by literally not having pressure in your quarterback's face. Got to give those guys some time to get open, be able to make some plays down the field, but of course, be able to run the ball. So protect Bryce Young, take the pressure off the passing game by running the ball, and then find a way to finally stop the run, especially against a team that did not run the ball last year, and you brought in assets this past offseason to do that exact thing. Those are my 3 keys of victory on Sunday for the Carolina Panthers. Of course, as always, on Tuesdays, we review those 3 keys and see how the Panthers did in their matchup on Sunday. The injury report came out. Ickey Ekwonu listed as doubtful after having an appendectomy 12 days ago. Doesn't seem like he's going to play. Who's up in another key injury to the Panthers secondary. We'll talk about that here in just a moment on Locked on Panthers. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. Well, football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. I've been playing Prize Picks lately, and it's such a fun way to stay locked in for the season. It's quick, easy, and honestly, my favorite way to follow along with football. This week's max discounts include Lamar Jackson, a half a passing yard. That's it. You need 1 passing yard from Lamar on Sunday night in Buffalo, and you're right there with the projection hitting. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive, and that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive and every detail. As an athlete focuses on every detail, Mazda does the same. From metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather, you can feel it the moment you get behind the wheel. The smooth handling, intuitive controls, and standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. Whether it's a quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes even everyday drives feel special. It's the small details that make the big plays, and just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, back here on Locked On Panthers, taking a look at the injury report heading into the Week 1 matchup down in Jacksonville. The Panthers, relatively clean when looking at things, but two things do stand out when heading into the game. Ickey Ekwonu, the first one, an illness. The illness is he had an appendectomy 12 days ago on that Sunday. He is listed as doubtful for the game, which means either Yosh Nijman or Brady Christensen will step in. Now, I asked Dave Canales today who that guy would be, and he said either Yosh or Brady, which there's a little bit of gamesmanship going on right now because last Thursday when we talked to Dave, he told us that on Tuesday of this week is when they felt like they would need to make a decision on whether it was going to be Brady or Yosh. Now, here's the problem. We're not allowed to view those kind of periods to know who's repping with the ones. He is also not wanting people like me and the rest of the media corps to tell Jacksonville who is going to be starting at left tackle. My guess in talking to people, it's going to be Yosh Nijman. Now, based off of last season, Brady Christensen, to me, would be the better option for Carolina. Yeah, Nijman's a bit taller, longer, all of that. But looking back when he filled in for Taylor Moton, didn't do the best job. And of all 9 of the guys coming back on this offensive line this season, he was the lowest graded player according to PFF for whatever that's worth. So Brady Christensen, to me, would make the most sense at left tackle on Sunday, but it looks like it's heading in the direction that Yosh Nijman will be that guy. And if that's the case, there's at least a continuity if he's been here since last season, that he's clearly been repping. And one of these guys over the last couple of weeks, both of them really have been repping with the first team. So they have never seen those guys next to him. We saw last year, Damian Lewis saw Brady Christensen for 2 games while Ickey was out with that ankle injury next to him, playing with him. And that was including, I believe, the game against New Orleans and the game in Germany against the Giants rather. So it's not like it's a big drop off as far as have these guys ever played with each other. Now, clearly it is a drop off in terms of talent and what Carolina's going to be asking of each of these individuals. But as mentioned earlier in Keys to Victory, it's not like they're going up against the scariest pass rush in the NFL. Yes, Josh Hines-Allen, very good player, someone who could probably win even if Ickey was there or not. But this is an area where, okay, it's a little bit of concern, but they don't want to flat out tell Jacksonville who it's going to be. So I'm guessing it's going to be Yosh Nijman, but either him or Brady Christensen stepping in there at left tackle. As far as elevating anyone off the practice squad, there's only 3 players on the roster who are listed as tackles. That is Nijman, that is Ickey, and that is Taylor Moton. And that's on the active roster. I want to mention there's 2 guys on the practice squad, Michael Tarquin, the undrafted free agent out of Oklahoma, and then Brandon Walton, who has experience with this coaching staff, in particular, Harold Goodwin and Joe Gilbert, who both work on the offensive line from his time in Tampa. So he would be the one I'm looking at if they're going to elevate another offensive lineman, in particular a tackle from the practice squad to fill the hole that's left there by Ickey. Likely not playing, as he's again listed as doubtful, and I don't think he's going to play. Doubtful might as well just be out, but they're not going to flat out say out because they want to, let Tampa believe that he may play, and they don't want to tell Jacksonville. They want to tell Jacksonville if he's going to play, and then who exactly is going to step in there for him, as if it's that big of a deal at this point in time. I don't think the Jags are believing he's going to play by seeing doubtful, and then all the talk about Yosh and Brady. I don't think Liam Cohen and that coaching staff is being tricked at all by some of the gamesmanship from Carolina, but it makes sense heading into week 1, be as mysterious as you can be. So I think Brandon Walton is someone to look out for to potentially be elevated, and that will come down on Saturday if it does happen. Another key injury, and this one is long-term and for the season and maybe even forever, just based off of this player's contract situation and the coaching situation in Carolina. Demarri Mathis, who they were able to claim off of waivers last Wednesday, he has suffered a torn ACL, and he will be out for the remainder of the season. He's going to have surgery here shortly. He got hurt on Wednesday's practice, and it was a non-contact injury, which are always the worst ones and usually lead to these kind of situations. And this is tough because he's here primarily because of his experience with Ejiro Evero a couple of years ago in Denver. And as a rookie, he played a lot in Ejiro Evero's scheme. And over the last couple of seasons, he's been phased out in Vance Joseph's defense, and he got a second chance in the league by coming here with Ejiro, even though it's Ejiro's last year, to be a guy who can play in the slot, be another corner, add some cover behind JC, Mike Jackson, and Shaw Smith-Wade. Now that is gone. An experienced player in this scheme is done after it was only a week because he came in last Wednesday. At least he was picked up last Wednesday and he got hurt this Wednesday. So only a week of him being on the roster, and now he's done for the season. It's the last year of his rookie deal, and it could be the last year of Ejiro Evero. So we, in all likelihood, will probably never see Demarri Mathis, unfortunately, unless things really turn around for this defense this year. We may never see him in a Carolina Panthers uniform on game day. So tough for him for that to happen. I'm sure he's very excited to get the opportunity to come to Carolina after being cut in Denver. And then this happens 1 week later, didn't even get a chance to play a game. Tough for him, tough for the team as well. No corresponding move just yet here on a Friday. They do have ideas of what they want to do and some guys they may be interested in bringing in. As far as potentially elevating somebody, Kalen King, who was signed to the practice squad from Penn State. I guess he's a UDFA out of Penn State. He is someone to look at. Michael Reed probably would be the one, as he spent the entirety of the offseason camp and preseason with Carolina. If they want to elevate another corner, again, JC, Mike Jack, Shaw, they're all going to start. You have a Caleb Evans, who is probably going to get a jersey anyways, be more a special teams guy. And then there's Corey Thornton as well. So I would think that Corey, certainly those five will all get uniforms on Sunday afternoon. 5 guys will be inactive from the 53, right now 52. So we'll see how that plays out. But Demarri Mathis out for the season, torn ACL, tough break there. Carolina will definitely need to bring somebody else in, hopefully a veteran that can help out as far as adding depth to that room now that they lost their veteran depth in Demarri Mathis. No designation, though, for Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis, and Ashawn Robinson, all those guys popping up on the injury report. Robert Hunt dealing with a foot injury. He was out there, and he even told the media on Thursday that it's nothing that's going to hold him back on Sunday. Damian Lewis been dealing with his shoulder throughout the entirety of training camp for the preseason. He's good to go. And then Ashawn Robinson had a groin pop up on him the other day. He's good to go as well. So good that all three of those guys are able to play, especially Hunt and Lewis being on that offensive line, knowing that Ekwonu is doubtful, which means he's not going to play on Sunday. So they're all good to go. And Tommy Trimble as well. He's good to go. Nothing holding them back. So looking just at the injury situation overall, the Panthers are likely down their left tackle. They're down their wide receiver 3 and Jalen Coker, who's on IR for the first 4 weeks. And then I suppose their cornerback 4 or 5 or 6, not really sure where Mathis was going to fit in as far as the depth chart there, but a backup corner, relatively pretty healthy heading into the season as they face off against Jacksonville on Sunday. And that is good news. As always, again, on Fridays, going to be doing a little bit later on, just so I can give you the context and the details of the injury report, as I'm going to be out there at the facility talking to Dave Canales after practice with the interview and press conference, and give me a check out practice. So just wanted to give you all that heads up once again. The Panthers have done a terrible job of getting seasons off the ground, and we all know what happens when they face off against Jacksonville in week 1. We'll talk about that here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down, and let's flash back to the season opener back in 2003 when Jake Delhomme entered the game after halftime, replacing Rodney Peete at quarterback. Jake led the Panthers back from a 17-0 deficit and found Ricky Proehl in the corner of the end zone late in the fourth quarter to deliver the Panthers a thrilling comeback victory against the Jacksonville Jaguars, on way to their first ever Super Bowl appearance in that 2003 season, later on that year. And just like Jake Delhomme delivered for the Panthers, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You can save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Sunday afternoon will be 22 years from the day the Panthers opened up the 2003 season against these same Jacksonville Jaguars. Jake Delhomme, we all know the story now, came in at halftime replacing Rodney Peete, led the Panthers all the way back from a 17-0 deficit there at then-named Ericsson Stadium to defeat the Jaguars there in Week 1. Later on that season, they went all the way to the Super Bowl, losing in heartbreaking fashion to New England Patriots there in Houston, Texas. Then 12 years after that, on September 13th, they faced off against the exact same Jacksonville Jaguars, that day winning easily 20-9 as Cam Newton went on to have an MVP season. The Panthers went 15-1 and also made it to Super Bowl 50 there in Santa Clara in a game that I'm sure many people still do not want to talk about. But we know the symmetry. Every time Carolina has opened up the season against Jacksonville, along with the Ohio State University winning the national championship in football the year prior, Jennifer Lopez getting divorced, the Panthers have gone on to go to the Super Bowl. But it all starts off by winning the game on Sunday. That's what they need to do. They have to get off to a strong start. And that is something that Carolina has struggled to do over the last couple of seasons. Talk about this on Monday. I really just asked the question, can the Panthers get a season off the ground? That is something that has not happened over the last 3 season openers, as they have lost each and every one of them. And they have also started off 0-2 in each of those seasons. And we all know the stat by heart at this point in time, what it's been since the playoffs expanded when teams start off the season 0-2. The Panthers have consistently dug themselves into an early season hole that they have not been able to get out of. And they almost got out of it a couple of years ago when Steve Wilkes took over as the interim. And they were right there in Tampa, week 17, a de facto NFC South title game where they led early 14-0. They weren't able to finish the job. But you can't put yourself in a position again where you're 0-2, or better yet, where you're 0-6 or 1-7 or 1-5. That can't be the case for this team. And going back to 2019, the Panthers are 1-5 in season openers. I mean, they started off 2019 0-2. I remember that game when it was McCaffrey getting the handoff instead of Cam, the best short yardage weapon in the history of the NFL, not being in that situation. They were 0-2, and people thought the sky was falling. Now they bounced back to get to 4-2, but eventually fell apart down the stretch as Kyle Allen could not hold on to the football. And Will Grier made that ill-fated start in Indianapolis, and Dante Jackson was benched by Perry Fuel, and all just a lot of nonsense that happened that season. They have to get off to a good start. And this, I was on radio today in Jacksonville, 1010XL, and they were asking me just the perspective of fans in the media about this game. As Jags fans believe that, oh, this is a game that they should absolutely win. And Panther fans, like, how do they feel? I was like, I feel like Carolina should feel like they should win this game. Jacksonville's defense was terrible last year, just like Carolina's. Carolina's made some improvements defensively and offensively where they should be better units this year. You have a quarterback who's coming off of a strong into the season, Trevor Lawrence, that you cannot say that at all about him. And where the Jags were, it's stability, at least in Carolina, where it's a brand new coaching staff and yada, yada, yada. Like, I feel like the Panthers should feel good about this one going into it. And looking at FanDuel right now, they're 3.5-point underdogs. I think they can cover that spread. If they lose, I think it's probably by a field goal. I don't think this is going to be a game where they go to get their doors blown off by the Jags. I didn't think they're going to get their doors blown off by that bad Saints team last year, but it happened. I cannot foresee Bryce Young playing as bad as he played to start the season. I can foresee the defense giving up a decent amount of points on Sunday. I can see this being a relatively high-scoring game for week 1. I can absolutely see that happening, but I think this is a great opportunity. Like, if they want to continue that pattern of playing Jacksonville week 1, beating Jacksonville week 1, then going on to Super Bowl, it has to lean into all the things I talked about at the beginning of the show. Stopping the run. Have not done that the last 6 times out. New team, understand that. Still a pattern that's been going on since 2019 of the inability of this defense to be able to get off the field against the run. You have to be able to get those receivers to not have so much pressure and run the football. All those things need to happen in order to win this game on Sunday and just get the season off the damn ground, man. Like, just give people, your fans, some hope, because hope is sold better in the NFL than any other sport in North America and really across the world. Everybody believes heading into week 1 that their team has a chance. Even if you don't think that your team should have a chance on paper, everyone has a chance. 4 teams every year go to the playoffs that didn't make it the year prior. And Carolina is well past due of being one of those 4 teams. And it's possible it could be this season, but it all starts on Sunday. And no, the season does not end if they don't win. But you look at just the way the schedule is set up right now, first 3 out of 4 games are on the road. You're going to have to eat that one at home. It's, of course, against Atlanta because it's a divisional game, but you're at Jacksonville on Sunday. You're at Arizona next week, and then you are home against Atlanta, and you're on the road against New England, an improved Patriots team now coached by Mike Vrabel. You got to be able to find a way to steal one on the road. And this, just like I think Arizona next week, a team that Carolina's owned recently, and even the week after that or 2 weeks after that against New England, like 3 very winnable games on the road. You just got to actually win them and not just talk about them being winnable. So we'll see if Carolina can get that done and start the season 1-0 and continue that trend that they had back in 2003 and in 2015 by beating Jacksonville and then going to play for it all later on this season. That's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Hosted by yours, Julian Council. Again, y'all subscribe and follow the show free over on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Julian Council, where again on Wednesday, next week, I'm back answering your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions. Get me those questions in following the game on Sunday. In the meantime, be safe. Be happy, be whole. As always, keep pounding. And I'll be back with you live following the game on Sunday afternoon with the Panthers. Hopefully, fingers crossed, start off 2025 the way they started it by starting off 1-0. Talk to y'all then.